So as I was building my lounge chairs for my patio, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be awesome if I could go back in time to my younger self when I was just starting woodworking and give myself some valuable tips. And so I thought to myself, that would be a really cool video, and I should share those tips with you guys. Stop scratching. I got poison ivy all over my arms. It's horrible. I keep scratching myself. Oh, it's so itchy. So I have come up with 7 tips. The first tip I'm going to share with you guys, and actually it's probably one of the most important tips out there, and it is shop safety. So when using a table saw, it's very important to use a push stick. Keep your fingers away from that blade as far away as you can. Now I'm guilty myself of not using this when I should be, and I get a lot of comments that I should be using a push stick, and yeah, I agree. And as you can see, this one here's got a chunk taken out of it from some kickback that had. Now if that was my finger, I would have lost it. So important to use one of these. You can buy them, they're pretty cheap, or also there's lots of videos online on how to make them yourself. These 2 machines right here, when they're running, they're extremely loud. So it's important to wear hearing protection. When you get older, or if you are already old, you know, you want to keep your hearings for as long as you can. You don't want to be in the nursing home and being like, I can't hear you. So wear hearing protection. It'll save your ears. And my last safety tip is eye protection. And I know personally that it's important to wear these. I've been to the emergency room twice already for eye injuries, and it's not fun. Having something in your eye hurts, it's very painful, and it's itchy. So, well, not as itchy as my poison ivy though. Ah. And one thing I heard, actually I think I read it on Facebook somewhere. It was actually pretty smart and kind of brilliant in a way. And you can walk with a wooden leg, but you can't see with a wooden eye. Tip number 2 is when you're gonna put a screw into wood, always pre-drill your holes. If you don't, the wood can split. It won't always split, but it could split. And nothing sucks more than ruining a project when you put a screw in and your wood cracks. It is frustrating, believe me. So tip 3 is don't underestimate the power of wood glue. Wood glue makes for a very strong joint when length grain is joined together. End grain makes a weak joint, and you should always use like dowels to strengthen that, or the Kreg pocket hole jig is great for doing that as well. Mortise and tenon joints if you are experienced. So if you ever glued 2 boards together and tried breaking them, you'll notice that the glue joint stays together and it always breaks beside the joint. It never breaks. I mean, as long as you have a nice tight glue joint, that glue joint should never break. So that kind of leads to a sub tip, I guess. I don't know if that's a thing or not, which is always hide your fasteners. Don't let them be seen. I don't like seeing projects where there's screws showing. I think that kind of makes it look kind of amateurish, not very professional looking. So always try to hide your screws. So tip 4 is this stop block right here. Now I use it on almost all my projects when I'm using a miter saw, when I have more than one cut to make that are the same length. Now this helps you to get repeatable cuts every time. Now this is really handy if you're making a table where all 4 legs have to be the same length. And that's important that they're all the same length, because if they're not, everyone knows what happens. A table wobbles. Tip 5 is cut long boards to manageable sizes. Now if you're building, let's say, doors or a table, and you have wood that's 12 feet long and you need to join it and plane it in 12 feet long boards, that's kind of hard and awkward to do. So make a cut list, cut your boards down to the rough sizes that they need to be. And I usually like to cut my boards about 2 to 3 inches longer than what they need to be. And then I'll mill it all down to make sure all 4 sides are square, and then I'll cut it down on my miter saw to the lengths that they have to be. Tip 6 is putty your nail holes after you stain. I can't stress this enough. Wood putty doesn't stain the same as wood. It might in some cases, depending on the wood that you're working with, but in a lot of cases, I find that it always stains darker than what it should be. So what I've learned and been told by other professional wood finishers is to putty after you stain with a wood putty that matches the color of the stain that you're working with. Now, if your project is going to be painted, you can putty before. And the last tip, tip 7, and I think it's actually one of the more important tips, is don't rush. Take your time. If you rush it, you're gonna make mistakes, and mistakes cost money, and wood is expensive. Woodworking in general is an expensive hobby, and you could, you know, cut wood short or and just wreck things and sand through veneers. And you could actually, rushing, you could wreck your equipment. So it's important to take your time, and also sand everything before assembly. It is much easier to sand before you put things together. And it's also very important to think 3, 4, 5 steps ahead in the project. So there you have it, 7 tips for beginner woodworkers. Now I wish I could go back into the future and tell myself, stop what you're doing it all wrong, you're gonna split the wood, you're gonna sand through that veneer, you're gonna, oh, don't rush, you know, oh, you gotta sand that first. I wish I could just go back in the future and just tell myself all those things. So I hope you found this video helpful, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell so you never miss a new video, and like always, we'll see you in the next one.